So I took Dave Ramsey's advice, and now I'm broke. That and more on today's episode. What's going on, guys? It's James here, and in today's video we're talking about Dave Ramsey. And if you don't know who Dave Ramsey is, well, stop right now, thank you very much, and go watch Dave Ramsey. Seriously, if you don't know who Dave Ramsey is, I do highly suggest going and watching his videos. He's a very influential man in the financial sphere, and he's a great start for anybody who is starting their financial journey. A brief history of Dave Ramsey. When he was 19 years old, he started out his real estate career, and in his early 20s, he became a millionaire. He acquired a $4 million real estate portfolio. $3 million of that was debt, and in his later 20s he went bankrupt. The bank that Dave had his money with changed hands. The new owners looked and wondered why a 25-year-old owed them several million dollars, so they ended up calling their notes. And what that means is they essentially wanted some of the money back. So they wanted $1 million back in 90 days, and even though Dave was able to pay back the majority of that money, he still ended up having to declare bankruptcy. After this happened, Dave started doing some crazy things. He implemented a budget. He paid off his debt and stayed out of debt. He acquired an emergency fund. He lived like no one else, so later he could live like no one else. I came across Dave Ramsey about 8 years ago when I was talking finances with my friend's dad. He grabbed me this book that he had previously read, The Total Money Makeover, and that's what introduced me to Dave's 7 baby steps to financial freedom. So the first of the 7 baby steps is to acquire a $1,000 emergency fund. And we're going to do this in case any emergencies happen. So if your car breaks down, you have the money to pay for it and you don't need to use a credit card. Dave Ramsey is really against credit cards, and this is just a baby blanket to help you if anything happens and an emergency arises. So now the second, probably the most important baby step, is to pay off all your debt. Pay off all the credit card debt that you've accumulated over the years. Pay off that car that you paid way too much money for and has appreciated in value since you bought it. Pay off anything that you owe. And Dave Ramsey's principle is to start with the smallest debt that you have and then move on to the bigger ones, because this is what's going to cause the debt snowball effect. You're going to start feeling good once you start paying off the smaller loans, and it's going to inspire you to keep paying off all the bigger loans. Now, I should mention that he doesn't expect you to pay off your home in this baby step. That's going to be saved for another one. This is just to get rid of all the smaller debts, and the home will be saved for later. Now, the third baby step is to grow the emergency fund that we talked about in the first baby step into 3 to 6 months expenses. This way, if anything big happens, like you lose your job, the economy crashes, and anything bad happens, you now have more money to get you by and you won't have to stress financially. So baby step 4 is to invest 15% of your income into retirement. Now, Dave Ramsey is American, so you're going to hear him say 401k, but when you're in Canada, you've got to think RRSP. Now, if you don't have an RRSP, the best time to have gotten one was when you were 18. And if you're past 18 years old, the best time to get one is now. The beauty of an RRSP is compounding interest. And what compounding interest is essentially interest on interest. The interest you earn on your principal amount will be reinvested. And then next month, when you gain more interest, it's going to be interest on the principal amount plus the interest that's been reinvested, thus growing you more money. If you don't yet have an RRSP, click the link down below and join Wealthsimple. Wealthsimple is a simple way for you to grow your wealth. You can open an RRSP, a TFSA, or a non-registered account and start investing. You can choose your own stocks, or you can let them build you a portfolio for a simple fee of 0.5%. When you put $100 into the account, you're going to get $10 back to trade with when you use the link below. So step 5 is to save for your children's college fund. If you don't have any children, you can skip this step. If you are planning to have kids, you can be really prepared and start funding this account right away. It's going to make it easier for your children to go to college, and you're saving for their future, so it is a really important step. If you've made it this far into the 7 baby steps, this is where you're going to start to pay your home off early. All that extra income that you were putting towards paying off your debt, you're now going to start paying your mortgage. You're going to get your mortgage paid off faster, you're going to pay less interest, and one of Dave Ramsey's biggest beliefs is the key to being a millionaire is having a paid off home mortgage. He's done a big study of hundreds or if not thousands of different millionaires, and the one thing they had in common was they paid off their home early. The last of the 7 baby steps is to build wealth and give. At this point, you would have started saving 15% for your early retirement, your home mortgage is paid off, you have 0 debt, you have a 3 to 6 months emergency fund, and now it's time for you to further invest and start being generous with your money. Because Dave Ramsey believes once you have accumulated a lot of money, the best thing you can do with it is to give it away. Because once you've become a millionaire, you don't really need all that money. So be generous with it. Donate to charities. Help your friends and family out when it's necessary and when it's responsible to do so. You don't want to just give them money to make their lives easier. They should learn all these principles themselves and go through the hard work that you've done. But you still do want to be generous with your money. So now you're probably wondering what advice it was that I took to become broke. And before I do that, there's one thing that I want to do first. And when you start watching his videos on YouTube or listening to his podcast, you're going to hear a lot of these. So here's mine. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I'm debt free! I took money that I had in my savings account and used it to pay off my student loans. I had $4,600 saved and I had about that in my student loans, so I used that money to pay it off. Now, it was definitely a bittersweet moment because on one hand, I'm debt free, but on the other, I just paid off what was the majority of my savings at the time, and I did keep my $1,000 emergency fund, but it is kind of a bigger pill to swallow because it's money that you've worked towards and you've saved for and you don't really want to see it go away. But I must be honest, having that feeling of being debt-free is a great feeling to have. So I have mentioned that Dave Ramsey definitely isn't a fan of credit cards, and I do kind of disagree with him on that. And another thing I disagree with him on is basically what I did. I used my savings to pay off my student loans, which I did say was nice to be debt free. But on the other hand, I feel because my student loans interest were about 4% and under, I could have used that money to reinvested in the stock market and could have made greater returns. Now, I wasn't paying a big monthly payment towards those loans, and I probably could have just left them. Though I'm paying interest on them, seeing the better returns in the stock market probably would have been more beneficial. And the issue with the credit cards, Dave doesn't want you to have any, and I guess the way I look at it is to have the 3 to 6 months in monthly expenses is great, and it's great to have that cushion, but I don't like having money just sitting there. So for me, I would rather keep that $1,000 for an emergency, hold on to a credit card, have it at a $0 balance, but have it there when an emergency arises that's going to cost me over that $1,000, and use the credit card to pay that off. But once I do that, I can take some money out of one of my investments and just pay that credit card off. To have 3 to 6 months expenses just sitting there, to me seems like a little bit of a waste when I can now reinvest that money and have that money make me more money. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. It would mean a lot to me if you guys did. I'm just starting out here and I'd really like to know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day, guys. See you later.